Welcome to Back in Crime.
This holiday season, we're not unwrapping gifts, we're unwrapping crimes.
From the shadows of history to the cold files of the FBI, we're pulling back the ribbon on mysteries that haunted Christmas past.
I'm Todd Hiles, retired U.S. Secret Service agent.
And I'm Stuart Fillmore, retired FBI agent. Together, we're the Texas Crime Travelers.
In this special series, we'll take you under the crime scene tape of cases that shocked communities and baffled investigators during Christmas.
Stories of greed, betrayal, and desperation, wrapped in tinsel, but dripping with suspense.
So pour yourself some eggnog, lock the doors, and join us.
This is Crimemas, Volume 1.
We have an updated episode for Crimemas. Now, we've discussed this case about a year ago in our Back in Crime podcast, number 5, the Santa Claus Heist.
Oh, well, man, we have to include this, right?
Yeah,
For
we are
Crimemas, come on.
Yeah, but today we're going to include it in Crimemas, but we have a lot of updated information to add to the podcast.
Okay, so you've been doing some research on this thing.
Well, you know, we had so many listeners reach out to us about that episode. It's turned out to be kind of a fan favorite.
Yeah.
But a lot of people had a little bit more questions, and some people gave us some updated information.
Okay. Yeah, see, that's why I always say I love that feedback because, yes, we have this experience as retired FBI and Secret Service, but, that doesn't, come on. That doesn't mean we have all the answers.
No.
And so, I think that's one thing that makes a good investigator is always being open to, another viewpoint or another piece of information. Just don't ever shut yourself off,
Right.
And this is a great example of that.
Yeah, and we've had a couple podcasts where we've talked about a crime, and a family member has reached out to us and actually gave us information that was, it was great. It was,
That's
it was
right.
awesome.
Yeah, the one about when you were a kid.
Right.
Yeah.
But more than that, this bank robbery, it's one of Texas's probably top crimes in their Texas history.
Sure. Yeah.
So let's get into
It's
it.
a cool story.
It's the morning of December 23rd, 1927. It's just 2 days before Christmas. While most Texans were stringing up decorations and shopping for last-minute gifts, the quiet town of Cisco is about to become the stage for one of the most infamous crimes in Lone Star history. Now, nearly a century ago, 98 years to be exact, Stuart.
Yeah, that's right.
Texas was in the grip of a crime wave. During this time, about 3 or 4 banks were being robbed every single day. And for FBI agents, Stuart, that's job security.
Well, yeah, but at that time, I don't think bank robbery was a federal crime. At that, in 1927, the FBI. FBI technically has been around since 1908.
Right.
But the current version of what most people consider the FBI really started under J. Edgar Hoover when he became director in 1924. So the Bureau at that time didn't even really officially carry guns, and also did not. Bank robbery was not a federal crime at that point. It wasn't until after the formation of the FDIC, where during the Depression, where banks were federally insured, that's when the Bureau got jurisdiction on bank robberies.
Because technically, I guess on a bank robbery, then the government lost the money and not necessarily the
Exactly.
bank.
Yep.
And so they probably want the FBI now to investigate those.
Right. But I know. But your point is taken. Yes.
Right.
With a lot of bank robberies happening, that's going to keep law enforcement in a job for sure.
But also at that time, and we'll get into this, it's for these small towns, it's really for those people, it's kind of a call to arms for them too.
Oh man, absolutely.
Because in a desperate move, because of all these bank robberies, the Texas Bankers Association offered an incentive of $5,000 to anyone who shot and killed a bank robber during the act of robbing the bank.
Yeah, that was a wanted dead or alive situation.
Right. And so let
That's
me
how seriously these people took that.
Yeah,
Yep.
let me repeat that. Not capture a bank robber.
Yep.
Not arrest a bank robber, but kill a bank robber.
Yes.
And
Probably 1927. I'm not really sure if I've seen photos from as late as 1927, but in the Old West and certainly into the early 20th century, you would let's say a bank robber was killed. it was not unusual for the posse to prop that corpse up and pose with it almost as like a trophy.
Right.
You know, like to say, hey, you come and mess with us, here's what's going to happen to you.
Right. I mean, think about that. 1927, $5,000. That's probably equal to, I don't know, $85,000 today.
Sure, easily.
I mean that's quite the Christmas bonus. And this dead bank robber bounty, this would actually, be in place until 1964.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people at that time felt that it really just turned your average citizen into a vigilante, right? Around this time, the Texas Rangers, they're going to allege that more bank robbers, are killed than actual bank robbers, meaning that people set people up just to kill them and then come out and
to
say,
get a reward.
Yeah, to get the reward and say, well, they're about to rob the bank.
Yeah. Sure.
So, somebody probably got killed and the killer just says, I shot him because he was going to rob the bank. Now, one of the Texas Rangers investigating these alleged bank robbers' death is Frank Hammer.
Okay. Yeah. Todd, sorry, I have to correct you on air there.
I said his last name wrong?
In the 1967 movie Bonnie and Clyde, they called him Frank Hammer, but he was pronounced Hamer. Frank Hamer.
Okay. And again, he's probably one of the best lawmen of the 20th century.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you mentioned Bonnie and Clyde. He got involved in that because I want to say in January of 1934, Bonnie and Clyde helped orchestrate a violent escape from a farm, or from a prison farm here.
Well, it's called Eastham, and again, probably people out there will say, "Well, boy, you're correcting Todd on pronouncing Hamer, and it's clearly Eastham prison." But I'm telling you, because I worked a couple of cases, civil rights cases down there, I can tell you that the locals pronounce it Eastham.
Eastham.
Yep. Clyde broke out some folks from there.
And right after that happened, the prison director, he actually persuades Frank to come out of retirement as a Texas Ranger.
Yep.
And he's hired as a special investigator for the Texas prison system.
That's right.
And his sole mission is to track down Bonnie and Clyde.
That's right. And he enlists the help of his old friend. And I'm dropping his name at the moment. It'll come to me. He was another retired agent, a retired ranger rather.
Okay.
Sorry.
And Frank studies
Manny Galt. Manny Galt was Frank Hamer's partner in that endeavor.
And like a chess master, Frank studies their movements and he predicts where they're going to be. He knows that they're going to be on back roads. He knows they're in small time hideouts, and that's eventually where he finds them.
Really, he kind of did before it was ever called that profiling. He kind of just looked at their overall, who they were,
how they
their
did things,
families, how they did things, their patterns, all that kind of stuff. And he, kind of came up with a profile. And he was usually just a few steps behind them, really.
In fact, I think we could have, even though we did a Bonnie and Clyde episode, but I think we could have almost included one here on Crimemas because in Christmas 1932,
well, yeah,
the Dallas County Sheriff's Office, they think that Clyde is going to visit his mom's house in West Dallas.
Yeah.
And during the Christmas season, they have that house under surveillance.
Yeah. Well, if I'm not mistaken, and again, I'm just going off the cuff on this, I think Clyde actually killed somebody on a Christmas day. I think he was trying to steal a car from out in front of the house, and the guy saw it and goes out to say, hey, what are you doing? And Clyde killed him.
Well, Clyde, in early days of January, he kills a sheriff's deputy.
Yeah.
And I think the sheriff's deputy felt that there was a stolen car there.
Okay, and I'm betting that's going to be those two things are tied. Yes.
Right. And I think the deputy's investigating a stolen car kind of near Clyde's mom's house.
That's right. And that house where that happened, it was in Dallas, and it was just a couple of blocks behind where Clyde Barrow's father owned a gas station, and that house was recently moved out to somewhere near where we live.
Oh, really?
And that's something it's way down on my list of things, but
Your bucket
I'm
list?
trying to locate where that is.
You want to
But
drive
yeah,
by and take a
they
picture
moved
of
the
that house?
Yeah.
Well, again, this episode's not about Bonnie and Clyde. It's about a man dressed as Santa Claus. So here we go. Meet Marshall Ratliff. He's a 24-year-old career criminal from Cisco, Texas. He's fresh out of prison. He's been pardoned. He teams up with fellow ex-con named Henry Helms and Robert Hill. These are two other guys that he met while he was locked up. And their original plan is they're going to break into a bank in Wichita Falls.
Okay.
And they're going to use a safe cracker to enter the vault. But this is where a single case of the flu alters Texas crime history, because their safe cracker comes down with the flu, and they're forced to change their
Got
plans.
to come up with a new plan. Plan B.
Right. And their plan B now is they're going to go to Cisco, the town of Cisco, and rob a bank.
Yeah.
They need one more person, and they recruit Lewis Davis. And he, in fact, is Helms' brother-in-law. Davis is, he's no hardened criminal. He's just a desperate family man hoping to score some Christmas cash.
Yeah.
So, he's really pulled into this crew because of family ties and his need to get money.
Sure.
That they're going to report later that Davis says, "I'll do it, but I don't want there to be any shooting."
Okay. I mean, that's reasonable.
Right. So this crew, they steal this Buick in Wichita Falls, and they drive about 120 miles south to Cisco.
Yeah.
And again, Cisco is Ratliff's hometown. And now Ratliff, not wanting to be recognized in his hometown, he puts on a disguise to rob the bank.
Yeah.
It's not a mask. It's not a wig. Again, 2 days before Christmas, he wears a Santa Claus costume.
Well, I mean, in 1927, I mean, Cisco, Texas today, and I probably just, I'm not sure I've ever been there. I think it's off the interstate going out west toward Abilene. But, it's not a very big town today. In 1927, it would have been way smaller. And so, I mean, people are going to know him.
Right.
And so he's got to have some kind of disguise.
Right. And you can imagine at this time, right before Christmas, that downtown Cisco, is going to be alive with like holiday cheer, right? There's going to be shoppers going in and out of stores,
Sure.
And then there is Ratliff walking down the sidewalk, dressed as Santa Claus. And as he strolls towards the First National Bank, Ratliff even waves to the children.
Sure.
And a few of them run up to greet him.
Yeah, on one hand, he stands out, but because of the time of year that it is, it's not anything that anyone is going to initially think is suspicious. If he did that in July, maybe so.
Right.
But yeah, just here, 3 days before Christmas?
Yeah, 2 days before Christmas. Right.
That's not going to, no one's going to think, oh, this is, something suspicious here. Something's wrong.
And witnesses are going to report later that, they saw children, run up, tug on his sleeves. They're asking for toys.
Yeah.
One little boy even asked him for a football. But, Ratliff's mind's not on toys. It's on the vault that's inside the First National Bank.
Sure.
Now there's this one little girl. She begs her mother to cross the street with her so that she can meet Santa and tell Santa what she wants for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
But again, Santa Claus is not handing out candy canes. He's packing heat. Ratliff's crew parks behind the bank, and they enter the bank lobby. When Ratliff walks into the bank, he meets up with his crew. He pulls out his handgun and shouts, "Hands up."
Yeah.
And they demand the bank vault to be opened. It's at this time that little girl and her mother have finally crossed the street, and they followed Santa Claus into the bank, and now they realize Santa's robbing the bank.
Yeah.
And,
wow.
And this little girl and their mother, they actually escape because they run right through the bank and out the back door.
Okay.
And
It's a quick thinking mom there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once she hit the back alley, the little girl starts screaming, which alerted the police.
Mm-hmm.
Around this time, Cisco has a population of nearly 8,000 people. And so somebody hears that cry, and it's just almost a signal to the mass of people, get your weapon and head towards the bank.
Exactly. Yeah.
And within minutes, the bank is surrounded not only by armed citizens, but the police are there too.
Yeah.
It's reported that some...
Well, I mean, I think, people would have looked at that as their money in that bank.
Right.
And so if the bank loses money, they're actually stealing my money.
Right. But a lot of it is the bounty.
And the bounty is
And the bounty.
All that gives the great context to this.
Right. Because some citizens, get weapons from their house, but there's others that actually rush into a nearby hardware store,
Yeah.
and they grab shotguns
Sure.
and ammo.
Mm-hmm. Probably with the store owner handing it out.
Right. There's going to be a Christmas Eve shootout.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds you of the movie Die Hard. Now, it's reported that Hill fired into the ceiling, and at that time, that was the first shots being fired, and now the townspeople returned fire into the bank. Inside the bank, there's 16 hostages and the 4 bank robbers.
Yeah.
The bank robbers sort of surround themselves with these hostages, and they step out in the rear alley to their getaway vehicle where, the stolen Buick is parked.
Right.
Again, in the alley, there's a massive shootout. Some of the hostages run away. Some hostages are shot.
I was going to say, it's a miracle that one of them wasn't killed.
Right. But eventually, the robbers get in the getaway, the Buick. They get in there, but they have 2 young girls as their hostages, as kind of shields.
Sure. That was a tactic that a lot of bank robbers used.
And it turns out it's a 12-year-old girl that they have in the front seat and a 10-year-old girl that they have in the rear seat. As this Buick speeds away from the bank.
Think for a second how scared those little girls had to have been.
Right.
Wow.
As this Buick speeds away from the bank, the Cisco police chief, his last name is Bedford, he fires a shotgun blast right before he's killed by gunshot from one of the robbers.
Okay. The sheriff actually fires a shotgun at
It's the
them.
police chief.
I'm sorry, the police chief
Right.
fires a shotgun at them
Right.
when they have a 10 and 12-year-old girl as hostage?
Right.
Wow.
There's another officer out there by the name of George Carmichael. He is wounded in this shootout in the alley, and he'll actually die several weeks later. But Bedford, the police chief, he dies there in the alley. Later, they're going to say that there's over 200 bullet holes inside the bank. I mean,
Crazy.
this was a massive shootout. And again, these robbers have fled in this Buick. They've got the 2 children as hostages, and Davis is also in the car, and he's been shot.
Okay.
And he's bleeding out. He's actually unconscious in the back seat of the Buick. But this is where the getaway kind of gets botched a little bit because the driver of the getaway car notices they have a serious problem. And
Probably a tire was hit or the radiator,
no.
gas tank.
They forgot to fill up the gas tank prior to the bank robbery, and they're nearly out of gas.
That's again, I'll go back to it that, hey, we as retired FBI and Secret Service, we don't know everything, and we're not the smartest guys on the planet. But, I think between us, we solved quite a few cases,
Right.
And usually it wasn't necessarily out of my great investigative skill. It was usually because some crumb that was left by a stupid criminal. Right. In this case, not planning to have, with the gas tank.
Yeah, I know I had more than one where the suspect fled. Kind of a whodunit. Didn't know who did it, but when he fled, he dropped his wallet.
Yeah.
And I know we had that
sure
in a counterfeit money case.
Yeah, I mean, it's all kinds of examples of that are all over the place. Like, for instance, the most recent, the Brian Kohberger murder, the Idaho student murders, he actually carried that out pretty well. There was very little physical evidence on that other than he left a knife sheath there that had his DNA on it, So you can think you're going to commit the perfect crime out there, but I promise you there's always going to be something that's going to trip up.
Right.
Just just always seems to happen.
And again, in this case, they forgot to fill up with gas.
Yep.
And now they're running out of gas. So they're just on the outside of town, and heading into town is this family, and they're in their Oldsmobile, and they're coming into Cisco for some last minute Christmas shopping. Their 14-year-old boy, he's actually driving the Oldsmobile, coming into town, and he spots Santa on the side of the road. So he kind of stops and to see if Santa needs help.
Sure.
And at that time, Santa pulls the handgun, and he hijacks their car.
Okay, that's not unusual either in these kind of situations.
So our bad guys, they transfer all their stolen money, their loot, and they have some canned food that they had inside the Buick. They transfer it all over into the Oldsmobile, and they're about to drive off in the Oldsmobile. But
is it out of gas too?
No, it's not out of gas. But the 14-year-old boy that had been driving, he now vanished. He is taking off running during this carjacking, right?
Okay.
And he took the ignition keys with him.
Okay.
So they can't get the Oldsmobile started.
Right.
So now this
Got to get back to the other one.
Yeah.
Back to the Buick.
Yeah. So they sort of panic, and this is where they leave Davis behind. They leave him there inside.
And he's unconscious at this point because he's bleeding out, right?
Right.
So he's probably not far from death.
Yeah, they left him in the Oldsmobile. They jump back into their bullet-riddled Buick that's almost out of gas. They still have the two hostages, and they take off driving in the Buick. And again, they're still being chased by this mob of gun toters.
I was going to say, I'm surprised that the posse or the mob had not already caught up with them at that point.
Right. They're only able actually to drive really a short distance before they have to bail out of the Buick, and they just they leave their two hostages in the car.
Yeah. But
the three of them just take off running. Now this is what's kind of new. I said there was some updated information. We've talked about a little bit so far, but here's one that I thought was very unique. Was that the 12-year-old girl that was in the front seat, that hostage?
Yeah.
She knows Ratliff.
Okay.
So
again, that's what I said. It's a small town, and folks are going to know each other.
Right. So now when this I guess posse arrives at this abandoned Buick,
the
12-year-old says, "Hey, the Santa Claus robber, it's Ratliff."
Okay.
Now Ratliff and Helms and Hill, they're just fleeing into the Texas countryside.
Okay. Well, not Hill, right? I mean, isn't Hill
Davis?
Davis. I'm sorry. Right. Yeah. That's right. You're right.
Yeah. So we have Ratliff, Helms, and Hill. They fleed in the countryside, and again, what's going to follow is this largest manhunt in state history. And this whole thing starts with Santa Claus, right? Now, these bank robbers thought that they had escaped. They thought they're in the countryside, they're okay, but now they realize that they left everything behind. Meaning,
even the money.
Yeah, they had taken $12,000 in cash and $150,000 in securities.
So the whole point of it was to get the money, right?
Right.
And
and they left that in the Buick, and so this is where some people had reached out and made comments to us. This was why these three guys were not chased any further after this, because everybody got the money recovered, and they got the two girls back. And that's sort of why maybe these guys got away at this time on foot.
Okay, yeah.
And of course, they got Davis now in custody.
Yeah.
The little girl has said who Ratliff was.
Yeah.
So they know who they are. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's probably one of those things where, do we know exactly what time of day this was?
I think it was sometime right before lunchtime.
Okay,
when this happened.
I was wondering if maybe it was a possibility that they could have been losing daylight and just maybe called it off at the time.
But I still, from what people have told us in comments, again, once that Buick is found and the two hostages are found, they're frightened. They're unhurt, but they're frightened.
Yeah.
But once they found out that it was Ratliff, they have Davis, who is he hasn't passed away yet, but they got him, and of course they got the money.
Right.
But now you have Ratliff, Helms, and Hill. They're really fugitives on foot.
Sure.
And now it's nightfall. They're hiding out in the freezing woods, and they're just in for this long night.
Yeah, it just sounds like misery to me.
Now, Davis, he's going to be actually taken to a hospital in Fort Worth. And it's not really for better medical care or anything like that. It's that law enforcement needs to protect him from the mob, right? Because they're going after him.
Sure. Yeah, they want that 5,000.
Right. So the Texas, it's reported that the Texas Rangers go to Fort Worth and that they talk to Davis there at the hospital. But Davis refuses to name names. Later that night, Davis is going to die from his wounds.
Yeah.
Now, there is some accounts out there that says that he did talk and that he told them that there was a ranch near Cisco that they were going to hide out and that they eventually would make their way back to Wichita Falls.
Right.
So I guess that ranch was kind of that idea of that's why they had food in the car because they were going to out there.
That makes sense. Yeah, that
But
fits.
to me, it's so weird that, it's been almost 100 years, and there's, a lot of newspaper articles, and there's a lot of reporting on this, that we can't get that right. Did Davis really talk to the Texas Rangers, or did he not talk to the Texas?
Yeah, right.
I really think probably the truth probably died with him.
Yeah.
I don't know if Davis said anything. But this is going to be on Christmas Eve. The Texas Ranger, in this case, is Captain Tom Hickman, and he's actually a friend of the Cisco police chief who was killed.
Okay.
And so this Texas Ranger, he's the one that really launches this largest manhunt that the state has ever seen. They go into all these towns out there near Cisco. At this time, it's like the weather is bad. It's kind of sleeting out there.
Oh my gosh.
These fields are icy. It's cold out there. They know that the robbers, these bank robbers, have stolen another car. In fact, they take another hostage. They flee again. They meet up with some people. They're involved in another gunfight out in the countryside.
Yeah.
And then, a couple days later, there's going to be this other shootout where law enforcement catches up to Ratliff, and he's actually he's shot.
Is he still wearing the Santa Claus outfit?
I don't think so. I don't think he has that on anymore.
Okay.
But he's actually captured, and when they do capture him after a shootout, he actually has 6 guns on him.
Yeah.
6 handguns on him. They get Ratliff into custody, but Helms and Hill, they vanished into the woods again after this shootout. And now this is where the first time in U.S. history law enforcement is going to use an airplane to track these 2 guys.
Yeah.
They find a pilot.
That's a great thought, though. It really is.
Right. They find a pilot and a spotter up in the plane because they know that this aircraft can, scan this terrain from above a lot easier than these people here.
It's a no-brainer.
Eventually, Helms and Hill will go into Graham, Texas. And again, these guys are wounded, they're starving, and they're exhausted. And that's where they're taken into custody. And this manhunt.
I don't like being cold. And for me, the second that I was out there and it was dark and maybe a little sleety and, cold, and I'm not prepared for that, I probably would have just given up at that point.
Yeah. And in fact,
you got me.
Yeah. Not only are they starving, but they're wounded. They've been in these shootouts.
Yep.
And this manhunt, it went on for 7 days. Yeah. And it covered 62 miles from the bank in Cisco. And as you know, it's Texas justice now, and it's going to come swiftly. Helms is identified as the man who killed the police chief and the one who shot Officer Carmichael. Yeah. So in February of 1928, he's convicted and he's sentenced to death.
Yeah.
On September 6, 1929.
And I guess I'm assuming in those days that would have been the electric chair.
We're going to get to that.
Okay.
Because on September 6, 1929, the corridors inside Huntsville prison echo with footsteps.
Okay.
Because Helms is about to face his sentence for killing the 2 police officers. And photographs from that day actually show Helms walking towards the death chamber, and he's flanked by these prison guards.
Yeah.
And the electric chair that's waiting for him is nicknamed...
Oh, okay. Old Sparky?
Exactly. And witnesses say Helms is kicking, he's screaming, he's resisting right up to the last moment. And just a side note there on Old Sparky. In 1964, Texas switched from the electric chair to lethal injections.
Yeah.
So they retired Old Sparky after how many executions do you think that was used?
Wow. I'll go out on a limb and say 250.
361.
Okay. All right.
But when they switched to the lethal injections, instead of preserving this electric chair, it's just hauled away and discarded in a dump near Huntsville, Texas.
No kidding. They should have kept that.
Well,
Be an interesting museum piece.
here we go. I'm going on.
Okay.
Because for several years, that chair just was abandoned in that dump, forgotten about.
Okay.
But some former prison staff and historians, they recognize, Old Sparky's history, and they rescue it from the dump.
I never heard of that before.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
They clean it up, and today it sits in the Texas Prison Museum in Huntsville.
Okay, so I thought somewhere in the back of my mind I knew that was, it was in a museum or something. Okay.
So there is a Texas Prison Museum in Huntsville.
Yeah.
And now Hill pleads guilty to armed robbery, and he's sentenced to 99 years. And then later, Hill's going to escape from prison 2 times, where he's quickly caught. I think one is where they had dug a tunnel under the fence, and I think he just gets to the other side of the fence and gets caught. But his 3rd time, he escaped from a prison farm in September of 1929.
Okay.
And he stays out for almost 18 months on the run. He's actually captured in January of 1931. And he's captured by the El Paso detectives on the International Bridge.
Okay.
As Hill's
trying to get into Mexico.
Yeah, he's trying to cross into Mexico.
Yeah.
And so when Cisco sits in Eastland County, when Eastland County hears about him, escaping, they decide that they're going to bring him back and they're going to charge him with the murder of the police chief.
Okay.
So, so Hill actually comes back to Eastland County, and they have a trial, but it results in a hung jury. And they just said, you know what, we're just going to return him back to the prison to complete his life sentence.
Okay.
Because he got the 99 years.
Yeah, what's the point? Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But in 1945, with World War II happening, there's labor shortages. So he is granted this conditional pardon and to get out of prison to go work in a factory. And in 1964, the governor of Texas...
that would be John Connolly.
He grants Hill a full pardon.
Okay.
Because Hill has been out now for, maybe just short of 20 years.
Yeah.
He's been out of prison.
So he gets this conditional parole to help with the war effort.
Right.
But then he doesn't after the war he didn't go back to prison.
He did not. He stayed out.
All right. So then from there on he maintained a law-abiding life, I guess.
Right.
Okay.
He actually will get married, become a stepfather, and he'll actually end up working construction in Smith County, Texas.
Okay, that's something familiar to you and me.
Right, and he dies in 1996.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, it's just a good example of I know I've talked about this before, that in my career at least, most of the people that I encountered that had violated the law, robbed banks, done all kinds of stupid things. They're not evil people. They're not bad people. They're people that made bad decisions, and it sounds like that's the case. I luckily, in my cases, only encountered people that were, I think I call them people without souls, just truly evil people. Luckily, I don't think there are many of those out there. They are out there, but this is a guy that just made a really, really idiotic decision back in the day.
Right. And he pled guilty for it back in the day.
Exactly.
He pled guilty.
Yeah.
He took his 99-year sentence.
Yeah.
Now, again, Ratliff, he's actually going to go through a trial, and he's going to be convicted of armed robbery, and he's sentenced to 99 years.
Yeah.
Then later, he's brought back because in March 1928, he's now sentenced in a trial there for for his role in the killings of the police chief and the police officer.
Yeah.
He appeals that, and he says, hey, I never fired any shots. although he loses his appeal.
Mr. Guy with 6 guns when you get arrested.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. He claims during the bank robbery that he never fired a shot. Again, he loses these appeals. He then tries his next thing that he tries to
Todd, I
do.
have to think there were witnesses that saw Santa Claus shooting a gun, you know?
Exactly.
So,
But I think his mother now starts writing letters to the prison, and they try this idea that he has this insanity plea now. And in fact, the day that Helms is executed for his role in it, that's the same day that Ratliff now starts acting insane in prison. The people of Cisco, they're growing restless because they feel that Ratliff should be executed.
yeah.
And so Eastland County issues a new arrest warrant for Ratliff. And this time they're going to charge him for armed robbery of the family that was driving the Oldsmobile.
Okay. All right.
So he's
that's a legitimate crime. I mean, no question that they did that.
right. So he's extradited from the prison system back into the Eastland County Jail. Once he gets into jail in that county, he now fakes that he's paralyzed, and the jailers have to feed and bathe him.
Right.
And on November 18th, 1929, Ratliff attempts to escape the county jail. And in this, this struggle to get out of the jail,
Yeah.
he injures a jailer named Tom Jones. And Tom Jones is injured.
I'm surprised in 1928, in a rural county jail, that they would even put up with this mess that you're paralyzed. I'm surprised they didn't just take him outside and beat the crap out of him.
Right.
And let's see if you're paralyzed. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But anyway, okay, I guess they didn't. I don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
This
Okay.
is 1929, November 18th.
Yeah.
He somehow in this struggle trying to get out of the jail, he injures this officer by the name of Tom Jones, and Tom Jones is going to pass away from these injuries.
Okay.
And
Wow, that's a serious fight. Then.
right.
Yeah.
But Ratliff doesn't get out of the jail.
Yeah.
He still remains in the jail, but the next day, it's reported that a mob of about 1,000 people storm the jail.
Yeah.
And they drag Ratliff out of the jail. They tie his hands and his feet, and they hang him from a telephone pole.
Okay, so a lynching.
Right.
Yeah.
They hang him from a telephone pole. After about 30 minutes, a justice of the peace pronounces him dead at 9:55 p.m. And so this saga of the Cisco bank
And
robbery.
in those days, no one's going to charge anybody related to that mob.
No, and I think later they did.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I want to say the prosecutor was related to Tom Jones.
Okay.
So
That's
then
a little bit of a conflict of interest there. I
right.
would
So
say.
some people have written us and said
Yeah.
that the prosecutor didn't work too hard on trying to
Well,
prosecute the mob.
and I'm also betting that during the when the mob stormed the jail, the jailers probably just stood aside and just said, "Hey, have at it."
And you're probably right.
Yep.
But this saga of the Cisco Santa Claus bank robbery comes to an end. Just a couple side notes here is the Texas Bankers Association. They refused to pay the $5,000 bounty on the death of Davis, just because too many people claimed to have shot Davis. So this reward just kind of in this confusion, just it never got paid out. Today in Eastland, Texas, there is a historical marker, and the original telephone pole still stands today, where they had the hanging of Ratliff. And this hanging,
Same telephone pole.
right, and this hanging will become the last public lynching ever in Texas.
Yeah.
But there still is, as investigators, there's that one question that still haunts everyone, and that is, how did Ratliff even get a Santa Claus suit?
That's a good point. Now you could just order it off Amazon. you
Right.
know?
So there's a lot of people that say that there was a fifth bank robber and that it was a woman. Apparently, as Chief Bedford lay dying after the shootout in the alley, he will tell law enforcement that he was shot by a female.
Oh, okay.
At Davis's funeral, again, Davis is the one that, the bank robber that dies in the shootout.
Yeah.
At his funeral, the local sheriff's office detained several women
That were there.
that were at the funeral for questioning. However, no arrests are made.
So Bedford said it was a woman that shot me.
Right. Now, throughout this investigation, there's always that, that one name, one female name that always surfaces, and that is Josephine Heron. She is the landlord in Wichita Falls, where Ratliff and Hill were boarding.
Okay.
Now, she is reported that she's actually friends with three of these guys. She's going to make a statement that before the robbery, she saw that Buick at her boarding house, but she just felt that, she didn't know it was stolen. She felt that it belonged to Davis because she did not know Davis.
Okay.
But she knew Hill,
Yeah.
Helms, and Ratliff.
Right.
And then, so allegedly, she's going to be the person that creates or sews the Santa Claus costume for Ratliff.
Okay. That makes sense to me. Absolutely.
Right. She also, I talked about the Buick having that food stored up in there. Apparently, she's the one that bought that food for those guys.
A woman's touch.
Right.
Yeah.
And during these 6-7 days that these guys are out on the run, after the bank robbery, she gets word up in Wichita Falls that they need medical attention, that these guys need it. So she finds a doctor in Wichita Falls, and they drive down to Cisco.
Okay. This is during the chase.
During the manhunt.
So if she was in Cisco when the bank was robbed.
No, she was up in Wichita Falls.
Okay, well then who shoots Bedford?
Right. And that's what you're exactly right. So but again, these are just comments that people are firing off to us.
Yeah.
And saying, "Hey, we heard, that she did this, she did that." And that's a great point there. How can she be shot somebody if she's in
because that implies
Wichita
that there would have
Falls?
been another car involved that she would have made her way out of Cisco with if she didn't
back to Wichita Falls. Yeah.
to get back to Wichita Falls, right?
But apparently her and this doctor from Wichita Falls, they're in that area where law enforcement is searching for for these fugitives, and they're actually turned away. They come across and law enforcement says, "Hey, go back to Wichita Falls."
Yeah, you're in the way here.
Later she made this claim that Helms had always said that if she ever needed to find him, he would be at this ranch near Cisco. And so that's apparently where she was going with the doctor.
Predetermined meeting spot.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, again, this is comments coming in from people, and I think we might have mentioned this before, is that some people believe that some of the money that was stolen was buried at her boarding house up in Wichita Falls.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But again, we know that
most of it I thought was in the car.
Most of it was in the car and recovered. So other people said that, hey, this wasn't their first bank robbery. These guys were bank robbers. They did this again. That that this loot is up there. So again, I'm not sure how any of that stolen money would have gotten out of the Oldsmobile and taken up to the boarding house in Wichita Falls.
Exactly. Yeah.
But maybe there's other money from other bank robberies up there buried. I don't know. But I'll say this to our dear listeners. This kind of wraps up this chilling Christmas crime. And it's just a lot of desperation in Santa Claus with a pistol.
It is, yeah. I just think how desperate I would have been to be out in the cold and wet and wounded.
Right.
Right. Yeah, that's some desperation.
Right. Again, thanks so much for joining us on this Crimemas episode. If you enjoyed this story, share it with your friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is another great example of how we can use
your comments.
Listener comments and feedback, and we really encourage it. We really do. We don't, we want to get as close to the truth as we possibly can on these things, and your comments and stuff and your insights can really help.
Yeah, and don't forget to like this and subscribe to our comments.
This has been the Back in Crime podcast presented by Texas Crime Travelers Todd Hiles and Stuart Fillmore. We are the executive producers. Grace Hiles is the producer and director. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and our YouTube channel at Texas Crime Travelers.